Welcome to the first episode of Seize the Data in 2026. We are very excited to have Hari here joining us out of Atlanta for this very first episode where we can run through all things AI, data leadership, and so many more topics. To kick us off, Hari, would you be able to share kind of a quick background of yourself? I know you've talked a lot about Intuit, Amazon Pay, leading the data strategy there, but yeah, would love to hear it from you.
Okay. All right. Very good. Logan, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to see you again, and I appreciate the opportunity to do this with you. All right. A little bit about me. I'm Hari Chidambaram. Professionally, I've been in data and AI leadership roles for majority of my career. Passionate about small business, commerce, data, AI. Also done some work in B2C. Um, I worked across industries. I started my career in transportation at FedEx in pricing and revenue management. From there, moved to banking and retail, working in a business called City Retail Services. My goal there was to help retailers grow and build loyalty using credit. And from there, I moved to Amazon Pay, where I was the head of data and was responsible for solving merchant onboarding and growth challenges. Uh, and from there, I moved into it, where my primary goal was to solve for bottlenecks in commerce and help small businesses scale. Um, Very excited to be here and look forward to our conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, that's quite the background. It sounds like you have done a whole lot throughout your career at all kinds of different companies. And I guess just to kick us off, I think AI, of course, is the hot topic, I think, the last couple of years. But I'm curious, like in your career, when did you really start, call it, using AI in whatever form or it become part of your day-to-day workflows? I feel like the type of companies you've been at, have like a lot of people view them as cutting edge in terms of data, reporting, analytics, AI. So I'm just curious to hear a little bit about your perspective of, okay, is this really just the last 2, 3 years, or what does the history look like for you in working with AI?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, I remember when I was at Citi, we were trying to solve a small business ecosystem problem. So I was working with Home Depot as a partner, and we were looking to understand what our small business customers look like, shared customers look like as part of that portfolio. And we didn't really have a good way of understanding that segmentation. And I think that was one of the first times that engaged in AI and ML and unsupervised learning, and it took a few days to segment customers across firmographics, customer type, industry, amongst others.
Mhm.
And it's really interesting to see the curve of ML and AI over the last few years. It used to be building models, and there was a lot of time in securing the right data, cleaning the data, and building models, finding the right metrics associated with those models, and eventually try to make make decisions with it. And we've come really far in that entire process. That process used to take days, sometimes weeks.
Mhm.
Now that can take hours or less. Right? Building models has become commoditized. It's become really easy.
Mhm.
Um, and it's really interesting to see the journey. Saying
Yeah.
that, one thing has remained constant. Having good data foundations has always been key to enable good AI or good ML.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm fully aligned there. Is like it is the foundation that really unlocks like that true AI transformation. And for those kind of data science projects and I say early ML things that you're doing at Citi and with Home Depot, what year was that then?
That was 2016, 2017, 2018.
Okay, got it, got it. Yeah, and the point you mentioned on how it kind of became commoditized is I feel like all the stuff that we were doing as kind of data practitioners, I guess it's crazy to think that was a decade ago. Uh,
Yep.
but yeah, it's so different now where it's all, hey, I can almost run this analysis or data science project in seconds, but that unlock is getting so much more and faster. But I guess I am kind of curious about like when we think about large enterprises or the type of companies you've worked at, like the term that is always thrown out is hey, we're going to be AI forward, agentic. We're going to have this big AI transformation initiative. What do you think leaders are doing wrong today or kind of misunderstanding about what that AI transformation journey actually looks like?
Hmm. That's a good question. I think leaders often think about, uh, or at least over the last couple of years, right? Um, Leaders think about AI as a way to solve really hard problems within the enterprise, and I think that's definitely true. I think what is misunderstood a little bit or underestimated is the speed at which that can happen with ambiguous data. I think they expect AI to um, magically eliminate ambiguity and hard trade offs. Um, AI does not remove judgment. I think I found that AI actually exposes where judgment was already weak or misaligned,
Mhm.
and um, I think that's a big piece that will continue to exist.
Mhm.
Um, so maybe to recap, uh, I'll say two things. One is the first most misunderstood or um, uh, underestimated component is the lack of data foundation. Right, many organizations don't have a very strong data foundation, and by data foundation I mean clean data, having CDP, having knowledge bases, knowledge graphs, and they form the foundation for good AI and agentic AI. Um, and the second piece is judgment. Right, I don't think AI is in a position to eliminate judgment. I think good judgment is key to run effective organizations.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I like what you said earlier about kind of a lot of people are expecting a magic wand fix to all their problems. And we see this with our customers like, hey, why can't we just get a AI instant dashboard that answers all these questions? We're like, okay, what is the underlying data that that's based on? Do you trust that? Does your team even trust that? And if the answer is no, is like, how is AI supposed to be the magic wand that fixes it? But on the data foundation piece, do you think that what it means to have a good data foundation has changed in the last decade? I guess from a technology, there's always new innovation and some principles I'm sure apply from start to end. But you as a data leader, do you view that that's kind of shifted a lot? It's like a AI forward data foundation is very different than the pre LLM kind of generation 5 years ago?
Yeah, um, I think the fundamentals of data foundation still exist, right? As you
Mhm.
think about, you know, um, good data flows, um, you know, good pipeline management, um, observability, trust and transparency in the data, having governed data sets, having a great semantic layer. I think these are components that are still true. What's changed, in my opinion, is data used to exist in silos across different parts of the organization. Maybe we can talk through an example, right? Let's say, Logan, you wanted to buy a shoe. What? Tell me something you like to buy.
Yeah. I mean, so I actually need a new pair of soccer cleats right now.
Okay, all right. But where do you like to buy them from?
My go to has been Adidas the last few years.
Excellent. All right, let's take that example, right? So you want a new pair of soccer cleats from Adidas, and I mean, I would assume that you would, want to go to, Adidas.com, browse through some cleats, right? Maybe add it to cart, think about it, do some more research, and at some point, decide to make the purchase, right? Let's say you make the purchase and for some reason the box is broken or the soccer cleats are not what you expect. You may call customer service, file a return online, and most of the times you may tend to have a good experience. Sometimes you don't, right? And that's, call it, your life cycle journey, uh, at least today. I think this entire life cycle is from a. So I'll talk about two things, right? One is from a data standpoint. Historically, all these, I mean, these data elements have been stored separately. For
Mhm.
example, when you log into Adidas.com, you may be a known, you may have logged in and bought shoes from them before, so you may be a known visitor, right?
Mhm.
Identity, and identity becomes super important in an AI first world. But historically, it's been stored separately.
Mhm.
Product browsing data, right? Your behavioral data on Adidas website is stored separately. Those events and event tracking is stored separately, and there's historically ad hoc analysis has been done on that. Third component is hey, you're in cart, you make a purchase, and your order is fulfilled. The actual transaction, right, is stored somewhere else, right, where you go through order tracking and your experience of receiving the order. And let's say by chance you're not happy with the order, and you call customer service, that is a totally different source of data, and they use different systems. So historically, data has lived in silos within an organization, and rarely has there been a holistic view of a customer uh, until now. And now
Mhm.
that becomes super important as we head into the age of AI.
Mhm.
Um, I think what organizations are finding is that you need to have a strong customer identity across each of these disparate data sources with high confidence so that you can have a holistic view of the customer at the most granular level, so that that becomes very strong CDP, and and then you add knowledge. I mean, you add documents to build a knowledge base, and you use a knowledge graph to find connection points across these elements, and this becomes the foundation for AI or even agentic AI.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I love that example of, okay, we're breaking down these different silos that were part of this customer journey that never talk to each other. But what I'm kind
Mhm.
of, I guess my remaining question on that is, where does AI really come into play there? Is it the analyst that's sitting on the back end that can now say, hey, I know that person X logged in at this time, they put in their cart, they removed it, okay, they complained about it and they got a return, or is it them improving decisions? Is it the customer feeling the experience of it, of like, hey, I can just buy some shoes in Chat GPT now and that's a whole new experience for it?
Yeah.
Like there's so many different elements of that product life cycle. But yeah, I'm curious where you think kind of the biggest impact changes. I think it can be multiple things. I don't think there's obviously no right answer here.
Yeah, I think of I mean, I think let's maybe split it into AI within an enterprise and AI in commerce, right? In this example, um, and they're both fascinating and how they're evolving so fast. So within an enterprise, uh, I think AI has accelerate or has already accelerated or is in the process of accelerating three things, in my opinion. One is for the developer or the analyst, right? Speed of development and speed of deployment. I think not productivity. I mean productivity, but really, how do I get to the same answer faster,
Mhm.
right? And there are
Right,
different
right.
use cases for that, right? Whether it's in production or for the analyst. The second piece is accelerating decision making within an organization.
Mhm.
Um, Whether it's speed of experimentation, speed of learning, right? What used to take 8 to 12 weeks to learn can now be learned in days, right?
Right.
Potentially, depending on the topic. Um, and the third piece is improving the customer experience. So in this case, right, for example, let's say Logan, you logged into Adidas.com and you've shopped with Adidas before. They know you. They have a profile on you. They can potentially customize your journey through their website, knowing your interests, and maybe you're a soccer fan and they know that, and guide you proactively, individually, personalized to you based on the information that they have about you, and that's
Mhm.
also that is also accelerated with AI. So I
Mhm.
think AI impacts all parts of this life cycle within an enterprise. I think I enjoyed what you brought up about uh, maybe you search for it in ChatGPT, and I think we call that agentic commerce now, right? It's not there fully yet, but agentic commerce is also a fascinating topic, and I think it has the potential to change how we do commerce in the near future. I'm
Mhm.
happy to talk about that as well.
Yeah, yeah. The personalization kind of angle of it, I guess, like maybe 5 years ago, Netflix was on the forefront of this. Is hey, we have recommended shows and movies, but I guess it's commoditized to a point where I think like it sounds like every company, retail store, consumer product goods should be able to at some point know what you're going to buy or where you're gonna basically suggest different products, things that you need before you even know them, which I guess we see that like on the Instagram, meta ads, other things. But how can any company implement that? It feels like that is largely becoming possible now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, um, you're right. 5 years ago, everybody looked up to Netflix with their proprietary algorithms on collaborative filtering or equivalent, right? On how they thought about personalization, and I think we're at a point where the actual models can very easily be democratized, if not already. Um, it's the execution of it in legacy companies that needs transformation, right?
Mhm.
And again, it goes back to, hey, do you have the right data foundations, which includes custom identity across your disparate data sources? Do you have, a good CDP? Do you like a customer 360? Do you have the right type of information to build your knowledge base? Are you investing in knowledge graphs to make connection points that are uh, that may not be easily recognizable, and that becomes the foundation for personalization at scale, and also, frankly, becomes the feeder into agentic AI and agents for different sets of activities across the organization.
Right, right, absolutely, yeah. And what companies do you view as kind of leading the charge of this? Like, I guess I think back to okay, when we're seeing all these new open source products pop up on the market all the time. It was like an example, Lyft had their open source data catalog a Bunsen. Uber had Data Hub at one point. Netflix had another tool. There's all these open source projects coming out. I don't know, maybe I'm not paying attention to it as much anymore, but who are the companies in your mind that are kind of this next wave of tech leading the charge? Is it just the model building companies out there, or is it there another kind of new enterprise tech of, hey, this company is like the gold standard now of how to implement AI at the enterprise?
Hmm. That's a really great question, and I think it has many subcomponents to it. Um, just for clarity, um, your question is, what's the best way to implement enterprise AI within an organization or
Yeah,
AI
yeah.
within teams?
I think yeah, that's definitely a part of it. But and maybe there's no answer to the other part as well of just I was curious if there's kind of companies that you view as like, hey, this is the top company or has done a great job of setting the example and is kind of public facing out there where people can go to learn and like because I don't see a ton of I'd say content material really out there that's like this is a company that's using AI across the org really well. I feel like
Hmm.
lately what I see more is the failure stories of, okay, you have the MIT, 95% of things fail, or I'm on a mailing list for Sastra, which is like a SaaS software newsletter. And they're like, we decided to add all these outbound and customer success AI agents. Now we're
Mhm.
firing them all because it didn't work. So I'm curious if you've seen like any like great success stories, and maybe there's not or they're not talked about as publicly as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. I think the entire field is changing and evolving rapidly, right? I don't know that I'm necessarily familiar with a best in class across all functions across an enterprise type of organization yet. But I do believe that enterprises are actively investing in trying to make AI a part of their operating fabric across every function. At least I believe many of them are, and if not, I believe they should.
Mhm.
Right?
Absolutely.
I think AI is foundationally changing how every function is operating, right? Whether it's marketing or sales or customer success or engineering or product, right, or data. I
Mhm.
think they are AI has the capacity, and frankly, it already is rethinking and reimagining the way every function operates. I know you
Mhm.
mentioned right 95, the MIT thing, the very famous statistic of 95% of AI projects fail. Um, I again, for me, I don't know that I view that. I mean, I take that statistic with a pinch of salt, uh, because I don't think the expectation of AI in 2024 or 2025 should have been, hey, I'm going to solve world hunger, right? I'm going to solve all the problems across the enterprise. I think we were very much in POC stage, and we're still experimenting, we're learning. And frankly, there were a lot of companies building POCs and they all look great. But when you try to scale it across legacy systems, it doesn't scale, right? And it doesn't scale because you have messy data, inconsistent metrics, potentially unclear ownership, um, and ambiguity in an organization, right? You can't layer intelligence on top of ambiguity. That never works, right? And I think what was interesting over the last maybe in 2024 and some part of 2025 was many of these issues were discovered only after trying to deploy AI. Um, and the model kind of became the messenger and hence got blamed as AI projects fail. And I don't think that was necessarily fair. In my experience, when organizations take a foundational approach on, hey, we are trying to reimagine, uh, you know, one how every function works together, and what can we do from a platform standpoint to enable these functions. I think that they have more success.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it also always goes back to what you said at the beginning of the show on just getting your data foundations right. Is like
Mhm.
that is step one to ultimately reduce that rate. And I think we may have touched on it a little bit, but I love to dive a little bit deeper. But the one thing I think we talked about was customer experience. But the other flip side of that coin that we kind of I think went over pretty quickly was the impact to actual enterprise analytics. So you think of your people working with BI, your data scientists, your developers. Where do you see kind of the biggest productivity gain there? I think from like our side at Data Logs is we have all of our development team using Claude, and that has
Mhm.
sped up how quickly we can get new products. We have our sales and marketing team creating quick demos, iterations, and lovable, and it's made life so easy. We don't need all these Figma prototyping works as they say, hey, we want this. Perfect. Demo's ready tomorrow. This is what you want.
Mhm.
This is what you look like. It cuts those cycles down. But I mean, we're about a 30-person startup. So say the bigger companies, like I imagine it's not as easy as that, but at Intuit, at Amazon, or some of your other roles, or just friends, colleagues in the industry, I'm curious where you see those biggest productivity gains.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I, I, yeah. Um, I think that's a great question, and I think you're definitely on the right path. And being an AI native company, starting it now, it's much easier to to adopt these AI native tools and like you said, get a prototype really fast, right? Um, I can tell you how we've changed ways of working, like a couple examples of how we've changed ways of working across maybe like a data and product type organization, right? I mean, historically, think even 2 years back, right? You would have a product manager write up a PRD, right, and then work with the design counterparts to build a prototype, and then work with engineering partners to understand feasibility, right? Do a feasibility study, work with data partners to do opportunity sizing, and then pitch that, and rack and stack it, and then try to get approval, and then go into experimentation, right? And then run the experiment. I mean, write an EDD, and then run an experiment for I don't know 4 to 8 weeks, and read it for another 4 weeks, and then maybe get an outcome, right? And all this entire process takes what, 3-4 months, right? Um, I think that entire process has been cut short dramatically. Right now, I mean, teams that can, I mean, instead of building a prototype, like a design type prototype, you can actually build a POC, right? And you can do that really fast.
Right.
Um, right. So the role of product and design teams have changed. Like I said, with Lovable, it's so fast and so easy, right? You can build a POC really fast, and you can test it with a bunch of beta users, and get feedback almost immediately, right?
Mhm.
Um, the so that's one way of cutting down a 4 month project into weeks, if not days, right?
Right. Right.
And you can make decisions really fast with this type of approach. I found that the roles across organizations are also collapsing, right? Where if you had maybe a data analyst and data engineer and then data scientist and then BI analyst and potentially an applied scientist and an economist, right? Many of these roles are collapsing right now to well, a data scientist should be able to do an ETL really quickly because you have the tools and technology to do it. And building models has become almost commoditized, and work very closely with the business to run an experiment and get outcomes, right? Uh, and you don't need to wait. You should, I mean, even with traditional A/B testing, you run it for some time, but sometimes when the traditional A/B testing is not possible, you find alternate offline experimentation methods and um, uh, get to decision making really fast. What I found is um, the goal of a data team has changed from being a data provider to being responsible for outcomes, and I think that's a very powerful shift that I'm starting to observe uh, over the last year.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think my big takeaway there is speed is the enterprise impact. But I am curious about kind of the risk side of things. And like at Datalog, because we really sit deeply in the BI analytics space, like what we're seeing is most of our customers, their number of reports, data sets, dashboards that exist are growing close to, I think our last year stat was like 84% year over year dashboard growth. And like the one big difference driving that is, okay, you can now basically what you do with Lovable of a prompt to a application, you can prompt a report, a data model, something new in the environment. And then the amount of junk that exists here just keeps creeping, growing up, which then it clutters that data foundation for the next wave of analytics is now we have junk being built on junk in these environments. And yeah, I'm just curious your thoughts there of like how can an enterprise maintain, manage problems like that? I feel like it happen, of course, in the BI layer, we see it every day, but same as your enterprise knowledge base. Like if that all becomes AI jargon built on things
Yep.
that weren't vetted, and now you have AI building on AI, and at some point, like, does the enterprise just become so messy that agents can't operate? And you're like, hey, we got to go back to humans. Like, what are your thoughts there?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Uh, I call it the curse of plenty,
I like that.
right? Um, when it's so easy to do, you have plenty of it, and that actually ends up causing more confusion versus clarity, right? To your specific example, right? When everyone can spin up dashboards, you end up with metric sprawl, semantic drift, potentially multiple versions of truth, all technically correct, but contextually incompatible, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And teams start optimizing for output instead of outcomes. And I think that's where um, you need good leadership to kind of step in and focus on what are the right outcomes for the organization. Right? I think of this as information, knowledge, and wisdom. Okay, information has been commoditized. Um, Knowledge is on its way to being commoditized, right? Um, and what's remaining is good wisdom and judgment. And I think that's the goal of senior leaders and leaders within the company,
Mhm.
to say, hey, we understand the benefit of all of this technology, but we also want to set guardrails on what's important, and we want to value, or we value clarity, right?
Mhm.
So across the BI sprawl and the other elements that sprawl in the organization, um, it's really beneficial to set up processes that focus on driving clarity on, hey, why are we doing what we're doing? Why is this important? What are we working towards? What value is it going to deliver? And what's the ROI on it? And I think that's a good mental model to practice in today's world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. End of the day, it's like, how do we implement lightweight guardrails that don't kill the speed, but there
Mhm.
needs to be some level of checks and balances in place, or else you get the same problem, probably amplified, uh, in these environments. Yeah. And then I think I have time for one more question, but just curious your take on the kind of future of enterprise software and how that impacts data leaders and things. Is like AI completely commoditizing all software creation and everything will just be a chat bot next year? Like, what is your realistic kind of view, or I guess in maybe a 2-3 year timeline of what does that look like?
Yeah. Um, I think as software creation gets cheaper, context, data, and trust become really important. Um, Enterprise SaaS will uh, not necessarily differentiate itself on features, but on how deeply embedded they are within the organization, on decision flows, and how well they understand customers' data and intent, right?
Mhm.
And I think for roles like a CDO or head of data, um, this is actually, in my opinion, a benefit, because the role shifts from a platform steward, right,
Mhm.
so to say, to decision architect,
Mhm.
defining how intelligence flows through the organization safely, uh, uh, and how it will augment humans uh, to with good judgment to make better decisions. And I think that's really the future of a data leader, is not just managing the data infrastructure or pipelines, but how they're shaping how the enterprise thinks, decides, and learns at scale.
Mm. I love that. Yeah, I feel like that is the perfect note to end on. Is what does it look like at scale? But yeah, Ari, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Seize the Data. And hopefully, we'll see you in Atlanta soon. I know we'll be coming back there for the Fabric conference in March. So we'll definitely have to grab dinner then.
Yeah, look forward to it. And thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks, Ari.